Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against Ukraine has left Russia increasingly isolated and under growing pressure from Western sanctions. These measures are hitting the Russian economy hard, particularly by slashing oil and gas exports to Europe, one of the Kremlin's most critical sources of income. But Moscow had a plan. A so-called shadow fleet of tankers operating under foreign flags allows Russia to secretly ship oil around the globe, bringing billions into Putin's war chest. Now, Ukraine is striking back, targeting this fleet in a campaign that could choke off one of Russia's last remaining lifelines. Let's take a closer look at why these attacks are so significant, how successful Ukraine has been, and what this means for the future of the war. To understand how much damage these attacks could cause, we need to understand why Russia's shadow fleet is so important. Russia is, quite simply, a petrostate. According to the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies, the Russian economy is divided into two parts: rent-generating sectors like oil and gas, and rent-dependent sectors, which rely on government redistribution of oil revenue. Since 2014, 30 to 50% of the Russian state budget has come from oil exports. These revenues fund everything, including the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and that dependency is growing. As the Kremlin ramps up defense spending and turns the economy into a war machine, productive private businesses are collapsing under inflation, interest rates, and a lack of export markets. According to Global Defense Corp, 25% of Russian small businesses have declared bankruptcy in the last year alone. That means less tax revenue, fewer domestic products, and rising economic strain. Meanwhile, the Kremlin must pay more salaries in the state-run defense sector. Russia's spending is exploding, while income sources dry up, except for one: oil exports. They remain Russia's most lucrative and increasingly only reliable source of state income. Without oil money, Russia cannot fund its war, and this is why the shadow fleet is crucial. After sanctions were introduced, including import bans and price caps on Russian crude, Moscow responded by creating a workaround: a shadow fleet of oil tankers. These ships are registered under so-called flags of convenience, countries that allow ships to register with little oversight, like Liberia, the Marshall Islands, or Malta. The strategy? Evade Western sanctions by using untraceable, unregulated tankers, often bought second-hand on the global market, including from European owners. According to the German Federal Agency for Civic Education, many of these tankers were purchased deliberately to break ties with any OPEC+ connections, allowing them to sell Russian oil at full market price, rather than at capped levels. And it worked. While the shadow fleet handled only 20% of Russian oil exports in early 2022, it now carries between 80 and 95% of Russia's crude. That's a massive shift, and a vital pillar of Putin's economic survival. The European Union has tried to limit the shadow fleet through stricter sanctions. But let's be honest, those sanctions have been too slow, too weak, and too late. Most of these tankers are still out at sea, evading authorities, turning off transponders, changing names, faking cargo papers. This is where Ukraine steps in. Once again, Kiev has decided to take matters into its own hands, and the results are starting to show. Ukraine has launched a daring new wave of asymmetric warfare, not just on land or in the air, but at sea. Using naval drones, sabotage teams, and coordinated strikes, Ukraine is now damaging and disabling Russia's shadow fleet, one tanker at a time. And the targets are not just in the Black Sea, they're global. Here are some key attacks carried out in recent months. January 28, 2025. The Sea Charm, flagged under the Marshall Islands, was struck off the Turkish Black Sea coast. A naval drone created a 1-meter hole in the hull, disabling the engine room. February 4th. The Grace Ferrum, flying a Liberian flag, was hit near Tobruk, Libya, a crucial hub for smuggled Russian oil. February 15th, explosions hit the Sea Jewel near the Italian coast, puncturing the hull and wrecking the rudder system. Later in February, the Koala, under Antigua and Barbuda's flag, was attacked in Ust-Luga, one of Russia's most secure oil export terminals. Its propulsion system was heavily damaged. June 29th. The Villamura, flagged in Malta, suffered a catastrophic strike off the Libyan coast near Benghazi. And just yesterday, Ukraine struck again, hitting the Eco-Wizard in Ust-Luga. At the time of this recording, the vessel was on the verge of sinking. These attacks have real consequences. Every tanker that's disabled is one less ship bringing money to Moscow. Every explosion is a message. There is no safe harbor for Putin's war machine. And the beauty of this strategy? It hits Russia where it hurts most, its economy, without the need for full-scale naval battles or large-scale NATO intervention. Ukraine is turning the shadow fleet into a liability. But can Ukraine keep this up? So far, the signs are promising. Kyiv's intelligence, coordination, and technological capabilities are improving every month. But these attacks are not without risk. They raise legal and diplomatic questions. They provoke retaliation. And Russia could try to rebuild or replace these ships, although that gets harder with every successful strike. What's clear is this: Putin's economic base is more vulnerable than ever, and Ukraine has found a way to turn that vulnerability into a strategic advantage. So what do you think? How important is the Shadow Fleet to Putin's war effort? Can Ukraine succeed in crippling it? And should the West be doing more to support these efforts? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for future updates on Ukraine, geopolitics, and the changing face of modern warfare. Stay safe, and see you next time.